I mean, let's just say Mark Silvestri came up with this design. He came up with Misery. Misery falls on the Cyber Force side of the crossover. And you give this to Jim Lee. And you know you can draw your ass off. You know you can draw. This is, we need a toothbrush of truth. But Jim Lee not only gives you this, he gives you this as a published book.
AKAPADers, Wildstorm Wednesday, welcome back to the channel. Wildcats number 5, the greatest illustration effort by one Jim Lee on this channel right now. Alright, AKAPAD, I had to give myself some of that sippy sip. Peter A. Luca here, aka Pad69. You guys know, known throughout the Wildstorm universe, Philadelphia, PA, Europe, and the multiverse as your eclectic one. I think we have a new intro there. I'm just going to start saying Wildstorm universe on Wildstorm Wednesdays, and Top Cow universe on Top Cow Tuesdays. Cheers, guys. Busy week. Sometimes with these intros, I like to give you guys some life updates. What's been happening? Stockpiling more content, gearing up to fully relaunch the podcast where we can do 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. movie drops. That's me talking to you about just movies. We talk about movies with other things sprinkled in, just like what we do here. We're working and stockpiling content for this very YouTube channel. Now, it's been suggested to me that AKAPAD, the Film Buff podcast, fully roll into YouTube Music. And YouTube Music can be doubled as a podcast platform. And right now I'm looking into if the RSS feed is all I need, if I can plug it into YouTube Music, and it pulls in all 600 plus episodes and bang, fully available to all of you if this is your preferred platform. Yeah, we're ambitious. We do a lot of things here. You guys know I work the 9 to 5 life. Sorry, I'm looking around, just trying to find a place. I have a little stool here now, off camera. The stool helps me grab things like this, and I'm not reaching out of the frame. I don't know why. Sometimes it's that one simple thing. So, Wildcats 5. We have a stack to set up Wildcats 5. Now, some of this was detailed on yesterday's Top Cow Tuesday video, where we went over in 2 hours Killer Instinct. Now, that Killer Instinct video that Wildcats 5 leads into is also going to get a new intro and recut that's going to be a little shorter. And the reason for that is I know a lot of you just want to get to the comic book side of that. Less of me, I don't know, like howling at the moon about the lost Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri undocumented relationship and or break. It's insane. Killer Instinct broke my brain in a particular way. Mostly just from the idea of what's not out there. We're not going to get into any of this right here. We're going to hit that drawing table, and you guys know we have fold out pages, okay? We have fold out pages. We have the ash can. We'll be able to see some of this artwork in black and white. And then I'm going to structure a little bit of, this is what I consider his greatest illustration effort. And I'm going to structure this around other books that I feel are strong illustration efforts. For different reasons, I'll do my very best in breaking down some of the criteria for that. So come on, guys, it's Wildstorm Wednesday, it's Jim Lee, it's Wildcats. Let's hit that drawing table.
Welcome back to the drawing board, my friends. We got Crypt, we got the Batman Forever Batmobile. This is the greatest Batmobile ever designed. It's so good. I keep this at my desk. I also keep Crypt at my desk because Crypt, with the toothbrush of truth, he keeps everything correct. And don't you trust any other comic book commentator that doesn't have a Crypt ready to go. I feel like we should talk about we have no crypt videos, by the way. So a lot of this is stemming from my coverage of Killer Instinct for Top Cow Tuesday. Wildcats 5 is a prologue. It's like a part 1 prologue that leads into Killer Instinct. Wildcats 5 is also a continuation of the last pages of Wildcats issue 4, or their launch miniseries. Don't you guys love how beat up and destroyed this is? Like, this is a well-loved comic. If you have comics that don't have dog ears like this, and just water damage and probably a couple jizz marks, move on. But the adventure ends, okay? And the adventure quickly picks right back up. And I said this before in the previous video, but I really love some of the simile here, right? Simile, metaphor, which is which, simile. And I just feel like, like this holds in your mind's eye. Like the retention for this is high. And to kind of echo that into your first page, after a little bit of a break, because Jim Lee just didn't roll into issue 4 and 5, there was a little bit of a pause there. And right here, so the ash can for Wildcats 5 was really the launch of Wildstorm Wednesdays. And you can go through the feed. This is, well, even here, we're advertising Killer Instinct. This is so valuable. It is a masterclass on, like, not just illustration, but yes, storytelling, all the comic book stuff, but really publishing. And that gets into a little bit of the commentary on, like, what does Jim Lee get away with? Because X-Men number 7 is what I consider his greatest X-Men work, okay? And, we get this Wolverine here that is, again, Lobo uses similar containment units for his hands and feet when he's in prison. And we see this in Stephen Platt's Prophet cover, or Prophet issue 5. Right, like this gets riffed on a lot, okay? And it's still getting riffed on. But we get a very primal Jim Lee. But we get these, like, posterized moments where Jim Lee, there's a lot of the poses in this book that really echo throughout the entire comic book industry. I will say X-Men number 7 funded creatively more lowball or no-name independent books of this era than any other book, because a lot of these poses, a lot of these angles were used, and people just flat out lightboxed them, okay? And this is just like, again, we don't get a lot of backgrounds, we don't get a lot of panel, we don't get a lot of storytelling, but we get kind of Jim Lee on all cylinders pose-wise. Every single page had, I mean, even now, just looking at it, it's insane. But we don't get a lot of storytelling. We don't. We really don't. Not a lot of establishing shots, not a lot of wide angles, but we get a collection of some of Jim Lee's absolute best poses. We mentioned gatefold cover. It's hard to mention gatefold cover without getting into the deluxe edition, by the way. This is the deluxe edition X-Men number 1. So when people discuss X-Men number 1 being the highest selling comic, I always question which version. Because we have different covers with the regular editions, and then we have the deluxe edition, which essentially is a different comic because it has different material. So it's not really X-Men number 1, it's something else. But this is grouped in too. The criteria of why X-Men number 1 is number 1, I'm just confused with how we have to look at that. But we get a incredible, fantastic issue here. Now, previously, when it comes to Wildcats 5, if we fast forward a little bit, in collaboration with Rob Liefeld, we get Fantastic Four #3. For a very long time, this was what I consider Jim Lee's absolute shining moment. Keep in mind, we don't get into his DC work on this channel. But here we get Atlantis invading the Heroes Reborn universe. We have Namor. We get one of the best drawn Captain Americas in history. We get some nice flashbacks here with Ben Grimm and Sue Storm. I just feel like this book was always on every single cylinder. And, you know, for a major book, lots of attention, lots of sales. The clock's ticking, the pressure's there. Like, even look at Namor on the megaphone. But I just feel like this is very much like my admiration for Wildcats issue 4. Look at Namor with the fire hydrant just like raining on him. I just feel like this issue moves, and it feels like it's in New York City. Like, it just, again, we get enough of these like medium wide shots to sell where we are, and just the instincts here, like just the negative space with the tentacles, and you have, you know, like 3/4 of a page, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different characters in 3/4 page panel, and it's readable. And this is also too like copied a million times. A little bit of how I look at Jim Lee is how known I feel some of the poses are. But always loved that Captain America. And remember, very controversial, no A on the forehead. I have no idea why that was controversial. And then we get into Divine Right. This is one of my all-time favorite covers for Divine Right. I just feel like I have to showcase Divine Right more and more. Right. So through Wildcats, he takes this pause. I think Wildcats 13 was his his final issue. But then he comes back with Divine Right, and Divine Right is somewhat of a universe-gripping story. We have the Max Faraday here with the giant sword, and he's almost like this godlike being, but he basically incorporates the entire Wildstorm universe, and essentially by the end of this, he becomes a god, the god of the Wildstorm universe, never to really kind of get reapproached again with that concept. And we get Divine Right 4, as you can see, we have Fairchild, but I love the random sideways panels. So he did something very similar in, can we find it? Yeah, people, I just had to flip through this like 3 times, but issue 2 of Wildcats, we get this. He is so awesome with these like random sideways panels that kind of, in a appropriate way, can show off what we need to see more effectively than if, you know, the page was vertical. So he does something here too with Max Faraday. But we get Lynch, we get Fairchild in this like 50s trade wife, like Stepford Wives bun here. But this is really where I think Jim Lee leans into some of the inking. I think some of the inking has like bolder lines. You kind of see that on the cover. A little bit manga, a little bit modern day influence here. But of his comeback book that really wasn't well received, this is the highlight of that entire run. Because again, you know, like nighttime, we're outside of Taco Hell, and then boom, like city shot here. We know we're in different environments relatively quick. It's his designs, show off his designs. Some, again, nice negative spaces, nice revelations. Turn the page, we're in a different environment. Again, different environment. You know, there's a lot of good selling here. And Divine Right 4, and even some of this too, is storyline wise. Like, you know, like sometimes we get this like convergence of like where the book, where the story, where the characters are going, and the opportunities for the artists, and they kind of hit this peak. You know, that's how I feel like X-Men 7's like that, Divine Right 4's like that. Heroes Reborn Fantastic Four 3 is like that. But we get Jim Lee running his own company, right? Like, he calls the shots. And you need to continue the hype train. And he does something here that Mark Silvestri does not do for for Cyberforce. Jim Lee says, I'm going to make this not just an illustration showpiece. I'm going to make this into a publishing showpiece. Because just to launch the book, okay, we get a double page inverted spread. We also have a weird shout out here from the intro. Jim Lee hypes up Killer Instinct, but he says Mark Silvestri is doing the work of his career. Because Jim Lee needs to give Mark Silvestri a shout out. Think about that. So, yeah, Grifter, Zilot, they secret base. We go into all of the details for this with the Killer Instinct detailed analysis. But they crash right through. You know, they're hang gliding, they crash right through, and then we get this. I mean, it doesn't even, my phone doesn't even pick it up. Turn the page, and then we get just four pages. So you might want to say, and to me, I will always say that's a Travis Charest face right there. So again, we're showcasing. So we get through the issue, and we're stuck in the laboratory. Grifter, Zilot, they're just killing, slaying people left and right. Grifter finds a laboratory. He's like, WTF, you shouldn't have this stuff. Later we find out that it's all derived from Spartan's torn off arm from Wildcats issue 3. That Dakota girl just tears the hot one. Just tears off of him. Then we get the introduction of Misery. I love her design so effing much. But their universe is Baron Strucker. He's reverse engineering some of the technology from Spartan to create a embryo hive army that, you know, for the bad guys. Whatever. We have Rival here too. Rival shows up in the just so you guys know, Rival is in the Killer Instinct tour book, and he's a original story right here. Never to come back, by the way. I believe there was a copyright trademark issue. I believe, may be wrong, correct me. But look at, I mean, let's just say Mark Silvestri came up with this design. He came up with Misery. Misery falls on the Cyberforce side of the crossover. And you give this to Jim Lee. And you know you can draw your ass off. You know you can draw. This is, we need a toothbrush of truth. But Jim Lee not only gives you this, he gives you this as a published book. Like, this is what he does with your idea. And you get pissed. I would get pissed. Killer Instinct advertisement. Lack of a better description of what happens in the first ever Homage Studios crossover. Jean Grey gets into the mind of Wolverine from Cyberforce and Wolverine from Wildcats. And previously, she makes him fall in love with her. And he's checked out, okay, because he's moved on. And then she gets Bear Claw, Ripclaw over here. Bear Claw is his name, but his name's Ripclaw. Whatever. Bear Claw would be a great code name too. But no, Ripclaw. And Ripclaw falls in love with her, and they're kind of in love. But she's also in love with this other guy here that gets exorcised by Voodoo. The Demonite shoots out of his dick. Great coloring here. I just love monochromatic coloring. Oh, it's so nice. Great negative. See, negative space, people. Just the toothbrush of truth will reveal the negative space and how you can have extreme, thank you, Rob Liefeld, action here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. We have Voodoo, who is distraught, clinging to Spartan for life. But yeah, Spartan just rips right through the Demonite. Great panel. Maul shows up. He shows up, and without hesitation, Maul just tries to take her head off. She jumps over him. Great panel. And she kind of, like, you see she's touching his head here, right there. she's trying to get inside of his mind, but when Maul expands his size, his mind shrinks and becomes less and less of an adult. He becomes like probably more autistic, and she can't control him. And then Warblade comes out of nowhere. They share words. Grifter here, look, about time you join the party, Z-Lot, because I'm always wondering when it'll be the last time. My heart skips when I see her. Like, it's so nice. Like, again, captions, but it's like Grifter and Z-Lot, they get into so many wild situations that they don't even think each other will come out of those situations. And there's a little bit, right? Like, there's a little bit of moonlighting in there. But we get Spartan with one. Look, do you guys like it when RoboCop? I remember when I was a kid when RoboCop did this to read the to USB into the system to read the data. Like, I love it. So Spartan, like, I think that moment infected the error. But here, like, Spartan just kind of like pulls out this cable and plugs into his eye and is able to update the team on what they've been missing. So we get this other beautiful Warblade versus Misery. A little bit more paneling, a little bit of exposition, a little bit back and forth. Void's trying to zap the team out of there into their hovering Blackbird that's above the island. Keep in mind, everything's about to explode. But then we get this. So this is, like, honest to God, this is a flex to Mark Silvestri. Because they're crossing over their two, like, universes with this character Misery. And Jim Lee is just like, eat it, punk. This is what we're doing here in Wildstorm. They're sharing Homage Studios. They're sharing office space. Jim Lee's like, we're doing this down the hall and we shit in the same toilet. To save time, we get some economic panels here. Jim Lee does some silhouettes. Nice close-up. Well, we'll take it. The team vanishes, thanks to Void. And then we get our finale here. Everything blows up. The Blackbird flies away. And the team's like, where the hell is Warblade? So, with all of that, though, 1 second here. I need to show you guys the... 1 second. Guys, I am sick of looking at these books. These books have been with me for maybe like 4 days now. So, I just wanted to kind of show... I mean, these transitions from issue to issue are incredible. Because this is how we're wrapping up issue 5. And issue 6, part 1, picks up right where we left off. And this is a great read without reading the prologue. Because they're just moving. And it's fantastic. I also feel like a lot of issue 6 is not drawn by Jim Lee. I even question that face. I question this face. The toothbrush of truth. Where are you? I lost the toothbrush of truth. But right here, I question that face. And then, 6 bleeds into 7. Alright. And then we get this other fantastic issue. Wildcats 8. Which also, in large, does not seem to be all drawn by Jim Lee. We get the Jim Lee soul. We know that from Hush. But we're going to talk about this next episode. So we're going to get into Wildcats 8. Not one of the absolute bangers of the Wildcats run, but a great reset issue and a great Chris Claremont-ish issue. These issues, these break issues, only exist because of Chris Claremont. All right, guys. Jim Lee and his greatest work. Right here. A flex to follow studio mate Mark Silvestri. And Jim Lee crushed him. He crushed him with this flex.